Welcome. In this video, it's all about multiphysics. So we're going to be looking at creating something similar to this. This is the final render, actually. So I did this after the tutorial. So we make something similar to this. I'll break this down and what multiphysics means. None of this is keyframed or animated. All of it is physically based. The ice cube is a bullet object reacting to our fluid solver in Deep Studio Effects. Okay, so these are the types of effects you can pull off by coupling the two solvers together, which essentially just gives you a multi-solver. Okay, so we'll be looking at this, but I can show you examples of other things that are possible. Okay, so objects aren't really a problem. You can have as many objects as you want in there. It'll all behave physically correctly, as you can see here. So think over 100 cubes with some water colliding with them. This is all possible. Deep rising is using the same engine actually. The same space solver we've been talking about in the other videos. So, and objects behave really, so you can have different mass. Some objects can sink, some objects will float depending on your mass. So it all depends. It's all physically accurate, which is good. It's based on Newtonian physics and the Navier-Stokes equations. Okay, so such a simple to set up, just two cubes, and the sphere just got a lot of mass, so it will sink to the bottom. What else do we have here? We've got, yeah, so you can have crazy stuff like this. I don't know, you can have your spheres jumping around. This is all using the same engine, of course, our application. This is all stuff we've done. This is not examples of other software. This is actually what you can do. And I think later I'll do a tutorial on the water mill, but I didn't do this properly. Didn't use the bullet constraints to have looked better, so I think I'll do a tutorial on this in the future when we integrate the bullet constraints properly. So this is pretty much the water was being driven. It's not being keyframed. It's being driven by the water, but the fluid's over here. So this is something that you can do. That's pretty cool actually. Yeah, I'll probably do a tutorial about this at some point. We're using bullet constraints to get something that looks nicer than that. And higher resolution, of course, than transit. That'll be cool. What else do we have here? Oh, and this. So this doesn't exactly show the multiphysics clearly. But here what's important is that the objects are interacting naturally with the liquid. So if there was no coupling in here, you wouldn't get the nice little splash effects there, for example, because the objects are actually interacting with the water. The water is resisting them. There's water resistance actually when they drop on the puddle of water, and as you can see, which is impossible, of course, if you don't have the fluid coupling. It would look unnatural, pretty much. So this is what you get for that. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's get started. Those are just examples of what is possible. Yeah, we'll be looking at this. It's not as complicated as the others we've seen, so it's pretty much about settings here. The setup's pretty, it's not that in-depth. Okay, it's a bit, if you've been following the tutorials, it's pretty easy to pick up. Otherwise, if you get lost, I suggest you go back and watch the early episodes. I highly recommend watching everything in order if you're interested in this type of thing. Okay, yeah, let's get started. Welcome everybody to a new episode, and the next episode in the Deep Effects Studio training series. In this episode, we're going to look at multiphysics. So we're going to be coupling fluids and rigid body dynamics together. So for those who are not familiar with what fluid multiphysics, I guess, is fluid multiphysics is, we're going to get two solvers, two separate physics solvers, and then we're going to couple them together
to create multiphysics. So this is not like unified physics, okay, so where the solver does everything, rigid body, fluids, everything, but this is two solvers acting separately, acting separately in unison, but the actual result is actually physically accurate, so it's not a cheat. We're not cheating in any way. We're using the laws of physics for this. So we're using Navier-Stokes and Newton's laws together to create something nice. So this video will be taped in a maybe weird fashion. There's probably introduction before this, so I did the tutorial first, then the rendering later. So that's why if there's any confusion about that, so the rendering came later. So I'm just going to start from scratch here. I haven't planned this out. So all I've done is set up the scene in Blender. So you can see what we're going to do today is pour some liquids. So it's not going to be like, there's no white water this time. It's just going to be some liquids pouring into a cup, sorry. And then the ice cube will move around. So we don't need to animate it or keyframe it or anything like that. So this is a simple introduction, I guess, to multi-physics and deep effects. So what we're gonna do is actually import the colada scene here, which I've prepared. Okay. So if you're new to this, I recommend looking at our earlier videos. There's a playlist of them on our channel for Deep Effects Studio. I won't be going into the basics again. I'm just gonna dive straight in. Okay, so I think the first thing we should do is set up the bullet. So we're going to have a static object and the dynamic object, which will be the ice cube for that. So we'll begin with bullet. We'll put bullets over. And then we'll put rigid objects. We're going to need two of these, actually. So 1 and 2. So we'll put default on the top, I guess. And the cylinder, which will be static, we'll start with that. So just as a reminder, bullet has no idea of what a static object is. So the easiest way to get something static is just to make the mass 0. It's essentially what a static object is in bullet. And remember, for this, since we're using a concave mesh, we're going to use triangles. Okay, so if you put a convex hull, everything will just bounce off the exterior. Okay, so we're going to stick with triangles for this, for static. Okay, so the SPS solver doesn't really need to pick up the static object. All it needs to see is the boundary particle. So these two things don't need to be linked together explicitly. Okay, so we'll just sample the surface and create some boundary particles for that. But for the dynamic object, this will need to be shared between the bullet solver and the SPH solver. So both solvers will need to see this, so it interacts properly. So for this, we're just going to leave it on the default settings. Actually, I'm going to adjust the mass here because the default mass is too light. So what you're going to see is the ice cube, you just shoot out the cup with 10. So I recommend starting with 100 and above for the default settings to get this to work. Okay, so we'll put a group node so we can combine these and plug them into the bullets over this side. And then I'll just drag this out so you can have a better look at what's happening. Am I missing anything? So yeah, so for this we won't need a trigger for the bullet because when we go in we're going to make it a slave. So this is how the multiphysics works transparently. Only one solver manages everything. So by making the bullet solver a slave of the liquid solver, everything will work in unison. Okay, so and we don't need to put the point catch here directly. So I think that's it for the bullet side. We'll be back here just to adjust settings. I Yes, okay, I should be fine. So even the time step is dictated by the fluid solver as well, so you don't have to touch the substep, time step. Only thing that's affected here is the gravity. Actually, no, the gravity is also uh, managed by the fluid solver, for the uniform force in the uniform solver. Actually, yes. Okay, so let us begin. I'm gonna drag this to the top. Put a group node. So here we're just gonna set up the after effects of it. So what we need are two caches. So we just need to map SPH out. Then I'm gonna use a particle cache to cache it to memory so we can see the results. Okay. Like that. Then we need a point cache for bullet. 1 second. Okay, also to memory. So just plug that into there. That's about it. And then, very important, need a trigger node. Very important. So I need to feed that into the index for the caches. Those are ready. Okay. Okay. Just do a quick save of this actually. Okay. We can continue now. So, okay. Just need to arrange our nodes properly so things don't overlap. Okay, so we need to do some sampling here. So setting up the bullet is actually quite simple here. All you need is to couple these together is a SPH bullet rigid node. So then we plug that in. Don't forget to plug in the solver so everything gets plugged into the thingy. So essentially what we've done here, I can show you something I was just playing with earlier. It's a very basic coupling scene. So what we're doing is just coupling a cube. We've got an emitter. It sets it and it flies off into the air. Okay. So it's pretty much a similar setup here. So as you can see, all we had to do was map the object into the SPH rigid to take care of the coupling for us, of course, and then into that solver there. Okay, so we don't need to sample, we don't need to do mesh voxelization. This node does it for us, okay? Okay, so then we're gonna make this more procedural, of course, because we want to work with different resolutions. Instead of the low resolution, then go ahead. Second, multiply for the diameter. So I think we will work with 0.4. Hopefully that will work out, and we'll play with it since I haven't planned this. Things will probably go wrong, but we'll fix them as we do. So we're not going to multiply it by 2 exactly, so we want to put at 1.8. I want the particles to breathe a bit. So if we're going to here, it's not exactly 0.4 as for the default settings. So we're going to plug that into there. Okay, so we're going to start with that. This actually needs to go into okay. So 1 second, so we need to drag this out. We're gonna go there. Value nodes. We're gonna put there. There. Yeah. Map that value into there, so we can just have organized things properly. into particle radius. So yeah, so that will take over the particle radius. Very important. This is the master particle radius, like that. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then we just need to sample the rigid object next. So straightforward. We're gonna go points. We're gonna do mesh voxelizer. Okay, so we don't want to mess things up here. Okay. Throw this up there like that. Actually, okay. I gotta create some spider webs here, I guess. 1 second. Scale goes there. Sorry, that's wrong. So I'll drag that there. I'm gonna drag this here. You will need the scale to get into there. Okay. And then since we're dealing with a rigid object, we won't need point object. We will not need points transform because we can just plug in the positions directly. So this works well for kinetic objects as well. But since it's static, there's no big deal there. Okay, okay, 1, 2. Okay, so like that we got our rigid objects. Gonna drag this all the way out here so we can plug it into there. That. So if we have a look at how everything looks so far, like that's everything. Pi eventually goes into the SPH node like that. Okay. We should probably inspect the sampling here. So yeah, because you can have leakages. So what we'll do is hide the cylinder like that. Oops. And then get a point of view. Of course, take note the transformations will not be translated here. Okay, so this is the default settings we need to. I forgot to plug in the. What do you call this? The resolution for that. Let's just pull this back, grab that, and put it into there. Then, as you can see, we've got less particles because we're at a higher resolution, and that's what we want. And of course, this will be translated upright. Actually, that's not perfect. That's going to leak, as you can see. So what we're going to do, let's got the multiply node and drop it a bit. So, like that, until we get something more uniform. I guess not bad. I guess. Okay, yeah, if that leaks, we'll drop it again, and 1.7 will work for now. Cool. Okay, close that, and then we can just disconnect the point view. Okay. Then yeah, we need an emitter. Okay. Okay, images are straightforward. You just plug them directly into the group. But we're gonna work. Okay, 1 second. Let's put the cylinder up so we can. Mm, 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 okay. Radius will drop to 2. Actually, let's make that 3. It's a bit slow. The particles will be a bit too big there. So let's do 5. Yes. Okay. I'll just save that. Of course, saving is always good. If something goes wrong. If I just click there and click 1. Wait 1 second, we forgot something very important. Yeah. The particle radius needs to be put into here. So, so we will do that like that. Okay, so I will do reset. Oof, wait a minute. That's too small for the radius. Sorry. I need the wrong place. Sorry. Sorry about that. That's why it's good to save. I'll just load that up. Okay. So yes, particle radius. I put it into the wrong slot there. Okay, I think that should do it. We just hit eliminate on. Let's just play that out. Let's pause that. 1 second. Okay, particles are entering, but our ice cube is not moving. 1 second. See if we can fix that. Oops, I think I washed it all. And okay, now the ice cube is moving. Sorry. Okay. But I guess we'll do this and just to start from here again. Can't tell if particles are leaking, but we'll have a look at that in a moment. Okay, let's pause that for a second. Okay, yeah, I think they're leaking. One second. Wonder why. Let's just see. Uh, I'm just gonna disconnect the bullet server just for a second. Yeah, like that. So you'll see what's happening clearly. And the ice cube. 1 second. Just drag that up there. Okay. Let's see what is happening. Okay, wait. I don't think I've plugged this in, have I? I should have plugged it in. I should have points for this page. Points rigid. Scale D to the proper transformation. This is point of view. Okay. Let me just pause for a second. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. And so the problem was simple. I just forgot to switch on the surface sampling on the voxelizer. So it was sampling the volume, but the volume is too small, so there are not really that many particles. So yeah, don't forget to do that for your static objects. I had lost track of the settings for a second. So now if we simulate this out, we will get proper interactions with the other particles. I should drop the pressure settings to speed this up. Do that later since it doesn't have to be accurate for now. As you can see, the time stepping is not consistent. It's just meaning it's trying to enforce the density error. But if we put a higher density error, we'll get more consistent speeds at the loss of accuracy. 1 second to this resample, please. Oops. Okay, so yeah, the interaction there, just remember surface sampling. Okay, so we'll just stop there quickly. As you can see, a few more keys so you can see the interaction. It's not very pronounced yet. Mm. Okay, stop now. Right, so as you can see, we're getting some interactions. Ice cube drops, and the water starts pushing into the other side. So I'm gonna pause here. I'm just gonna do a full simulation. I'm gonna try to fill up the cup and get the ice cube to rise. I'll be back. Then I'll see what settings I adjust, and I will explain them. So it'll take a bit of time. So I'll be back just now. Okay, I'm back. I ended up actually doing this twice. I didn't like the first one with the settings that we started off with, but I'll show that. So this was the one I was working on before. As you can see, it is interacting, but not a lot, right? So it's not very interesting. It moves a bit into the corner, the cup fills up, and then done, pretty much. Not very exciting. So I decided to play around with the settings. I wanted something, more interesting. And I got this. And I'll explain the settings in a moment. More interesting. Essentially, it's just increasing the forces and lowering the mass of the object to get to this point, actually. So it fills up until falls out. Way more interesting, I think. 1 second, the video software is lagging. Okay, 1 second, the recording software. And yeah, so pretty much, as you can see, it's way more interesting. If you go to the very end, we can see it just pops out, and yeah, very interesting. So let's actually make a good final render, I guess. So I might think I'll do that. Yeah, so I can just talk about the settings on this. Let's review nude. So things I changed. We start here. I dropped the mass to 30 from 200. It was a bit too heavy for the type of effect I wanted. But if you're going for a more realistic sort of look, that would have been perfect. Yeah, for the emitter, I just dropped the particles. Didn't really matter. I thought there would be less from 10, but doesn't make a difference. But the strength, I upped it again from 5 to 8, which was good. So to get that. And the most important part is the coupling stiffness. So this is the rigid, this is the multiphysics stiffness. So that's how strong the coupling will be between the two. So the fluid simulator generates forces to move the object, so this dictates how strong those forces are. I increased this from 0.05 to 25, okay? Yeah, and the sub-steps I increased, that's why we get the fast animation for that, and the other one actually. So yeah, so that's what we get in the end. Yeah, so that's pretty much introduction to the multiphysics solver. So even with this basic setup, you can pretty much do quite a lot of shots with this, from product shots, stuff like that. Yeah, so cube splashing. See if I can find. I don't have my old stuff here, but if you look at my channel, there's other stuff interacting that's pretty cool. That does this. So for this is the network. Not that complicated actually to set up. Pretty straightforward. And so yeah, you can actually up-res this, which I'll do probably later. You can add more. So there's no limit on how many rigid objects you can have. Yeah, so in the future I'll probably do another one like this. So probably covering exactly the same things but in a different scenario. So people are sure exactly how to set this up and it's not confusing in any way. Anyway, I'll stop there. The recording software is just okay. Yeah. Okay, and this is the final meshing setup I had for the intro clip you saw at the beginning of the the beginning of the tutorial. So if you've watched the last episode in the series which covered meshing from A to Z for the details, you can watch that. I'm just gonna go over the. So it's pretty much the same thing as the last video, nothing special here, but one interesting thing here is that the cup subtraction is more defined here. So for example, let's see, the shape of the cup is more defined with the liquid. So if I did not do that, if I just plugged in directly into the video mesh, 1 second, we get this type of liquid. As you can see, it's got holes in the side. Well, not holes, but it's not smooth. So I don't know. It might be an effect you want, but for it to take the perfect shape of the cup, I subtracted the volume from that to get the final image that you see here on the final mesh. And so, 1 second, close that. You can just scrub through this. There's a few operations here, so it'll be a bit slow, but generally responsive. So yeah. So yes, and oh yeah, this is a higher resolution than I've been using in the tutorial. So this is about 0.1, 0.01 for the particle resolution. So that also corresponds to the meshing of what you will get in DeepFX. One more frame. I'm gonna have a look. This, I guess. Yeah, so that's it. So yeah, I'm just gonna export this, and I'm sure you've seen it at the beginning of how it looks, and that's pretty much it. And quickly we can look at the mesh again. Here, there's nothing I haven't done here that I didn't do in the last video. So looking at the settings, it's roughly the same. Default dilate, filters, 1 Gaussian with 2 iterations. And then for the dilate node, just another road with 1 per thing. So I just tuned this one actually until I got the results I wanted actually. So it was pretty high. So one trick you can use for the dilate, I guess, which I use, let's see if I can find a good frame here, where we've got particles flying around. No, let's try here. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, these small particles here. 1 second, if I zoom in. Yeah, so these small particles here, normally if you add too much smoothing or if the dilate is not big enough, they'll disappear. So that's not good. So the default, if I left this on the default, for example, of the 2.5, yeah, it's like a 2.5, you will lose those details, which might be fine in some instances, I guess, but I don't know. It's up to what you want. But the problem with this as well is that your liquid will look like it's losing volume and it's not consistent, and you will see things popping out of here to look like something is boiling, and it's not really that realistic. So you want a consistency to your mesh. So it's better to make sure that all your particles in every frame actually get some sort of consistent volume. So you can just play with this setting until you get something. So I just kept dropping it until I got something that was satisfactory to me. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah.